So I wanted to make this video just to document some of the symptoms that I have been dealing with for my whole life that I had no idea were related to having ADHD and autism. And some of these symptoms sound very common, I guess. You would just think everyone kind of deals with this. And that might be true. Just because you might have some of these symptoms doesn't mean you have ADHD. It's more so when they actually get in the way of your life. And even though some of them sound really simple and you should just be able to not do it or do the thing, it's like you can't. You're just not capable. That can be really hard because I would gaslight myself and be like, Jodie, it's such a simple thing. Why can't you just unpack the dishwasher? Or why can't you just go to the party? Like, all my friends would be encouraging me and I just can't do such a simple thing. So for ages, I thought something was wrong with me. I've done so much inner work. I'm very self-aware. I've done so much mindset work, and still I am the way I am. Turns out it's because I have ADHD and autism. I'm just going to list out my symptoms as they are. A lot of the autism and ADHD symptoms do overlap, and some of them actually conflict each other, which I'll kind of explain towards the end with two of the symptoms I have. This is just for interest's sake, by the way. Don't use this as a diagnostic tool. Obviously, go see a medical professional. I just want to put this out there more so to educate as well, because I had no idea, and I think it's really nice to not only understand myself better, also to better understand everyone else out there. There are a lot of us that do have neurodivergent brains. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jodie and I help you change your beliefs so you can change your body, your health, and your life. If you are a regular to my channel, don't worry, not all my content is going to be ADHD related moving forward. It's still going to be health in general, and whether that's fitness stuff, nutrition stuff, fat loss stuff, mindset, or mental health, it's all related at the end of the day. So there will be some ADHD content moving forward just because it is so relevant to me now, but it won't always. Anyway, really funny because it is actually a symptom of ADHD, being really forgetful. And I never thought I was forgetful in terms of I don't lose things easily. I always remember to take my keys because I'm really strict. I'm getting ready, I always double, triple check that I've got my keys on me. But I do forget things really easily, like faces. I'm terrible at remembering someone's face if I've only just met them. Like, I will go home and not be able to remember what this person looked like. And I was making a coffee before this video. It took me 45 minutes to make a coffee. And my sister would be like, oh, it takes me 45 minutes to make and drink a coffee. Like, my kids just interrupt me. Like, what's the big deal? I don't have kids or anyone else distracting me. It literally took me 45 minutes to make a coffee because I kept interrupting myself, getting in my own way, and I totally forgot I was making a coffee. Like, how do you forget you're making a coffee when that's what you felt like and want? And it's funny, even when I go to a cafe to work, I'll order a coffee because it does help me focus, but then I'll forget the coffee is there and it literally takes me 2 hours to drink a long black. And I know a lot of people with ADHD can relate because there's memes and stuff about always drinking cold coffee. Now, this might not be a symptom as such, I don't know for sure, but I do find it really interesting that a lot of people with ADHD do have eating disorders and gut issues, and that has been part of my history as well. Now, something really interesting to me is that I always assumed someone with ADHD didn't do very well in school and had trouble in school. That was not my case. I did really well in school and I did really well at university as well. I went to university for 7 years, but looking back at it, I taught myself most of the time because I could not process information in the classroom. Like, they would be teaching me things and I would just be in another world, in my own world, zoned out. I went to university mostly for the social aspect. Like, I would show up to lectures because I had a really good friend there. And then once she started doing different subjects because she transferred, I kind of stopped going so much because I thought I could teach myself at home more efficiently and it was just a waste of time for me to go. Turns out though, it's because I simply could not focus there, and I need a very particular environment for me to focus. I also need a sense of urgency for me to get anything done. If there is not a deadline, I do not do it. I have so many projects I have started and I get so excited by them, and that like makes me do it, and I'm super interested for a while, and then all of a sudden I just get bored and I don't even launch it. Now, the reason I think I finished university is because I really thought it was required for me to get a good job, which is so funny because I passed university with flying colors, did my master's and everything, and then still couldn't get a job. So totally fell for that. It's also really funny in terms of what I do now, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs who have ADHD. I did have a full-time job before I got into fitness and became a coach, and that was really hard. I felt like it was literally draining the life out of me because I was not interested in it. At university, I had a whole heap of hospitality jobs. I did move to a retail job at one point and hated it because I was literally just standing there greeting people, putting clothes away. Found it so boring. I much preferred the hospitality because I was on my feet, meeting new people and doing a whole bunch of different things. It was very fast paced, and I thrive when there is too much to do. When there is not enough to do, I get bored and I end up just doing nothing. I almost need that pressure and stress, again, that sense of urgency to get things done, which is actually not very healthy at all. That's another one of my symptoms. I thrive when I'm multitasking and doing a million things at once because I have so much to do. I can literally get all my work done for a week in a day if I can get into that zone and focus. If I cannot get into the zone, if I don't have enough to do, if I feel like I have too much time, I will literally just put it all off until the last minute. You might be wondering how I manage to work out and stick to a routine with working out. I think the autism side of me helps with that a lot, but also the fact that working out for me, I have this sense of urgency in that I know how important it is for my long-term health and longevity. I don't want to lose the progress that I've made because I know how hard it is to make progress, and I also don't want to die. So it's like really urgent for me to get my workouts in for the week. Now, obviously, if you don't work out, you're not going to die, and there are so many people that live forever that don't do weight training. I, for some reason, have it in my head that if I weight train, build as much muscle as possible while I'm relatively young and able to, my life as I get older will be easier, and that makes me really happy. Now, another symptom that is kind of not anything, but it kind of makes sense to me now, I love changing my environment. So I cannot work in the same place for 8 hours. I need to do some work here, then do some work there, then do some work at the cafe. I'll go to the beach in between, and then I will go and do a workout, and then I'll do some more work, and then I need to scatter things. I can't just sit and do all my work in 8 hours. And it's the same with my environment when it comes to traveling as well. Like, I often go to Sydney or Melbourne. Overseas used to be a lot more common before the pandemic. But yeah, new environments stimulate me so much. I feel like that's pretty normal, but it's like to another level for me. That's why I'm usually always going somewhere. I haven't been anywhere for 2 months, and that seems like a really long time for me. I feel like I need to constantly be stimulated, and I get bored very easily. I don't watch a lot of TV because that bores me. And even movies, I hate watching movies. I always have, because I can't concentrate for that long on a movie. I hate sitting down for that long as well. Another symptom is that I don't have any hobbies because I find it really hard to stick to anything that isn't an interest or isn't urgent. Like, weight training for me has that urgency. Yoga has become that because I really realize how important it is for my mind and my nervous system, especially now knowing I have ADHD. I love going down rabbit holes. I love when I find a new interest and I literally spend hours just researching it and learning as much as I can. But then I get over it really fast and it kind of just becomes boring to me. Now, this is a really interesting one, I think, because I always had trouble having housemates. They would annoy me so much, mostly because I would not be able to get to sleep if I knew they were still awake, if they were making any kind of noise, no matter how loud or how soft, if there was inconsistent noise, and if I just knew they were there awake, I can't deal with it. And so that obviously caused a lot of tension, and I always had trouble living with people. Now I live by myself. Partners have been different, like ex-partners in the past. Obviously that's different, but I can see a lot of the issues that we had were actually due to some of my ADHD symptoms and autism, I guess, but mostly related to the emotional dysregulation side of things, which I'll get into in a minute. But anyway, the inability to live with people is due to my hypersensitivity to noise, which is really funny because it also impacts how I work. I can work so well when I have coffee and when I have music pumping. I love low-key kind of techno stuff or deep house stuff. I can get lost then and just really focus. So I love going to cafes where I get a coffee and the music is like just consistent noise and it's loud. But when it's inconsistent noise, I used to go to this cafe all the time and I stopped going because the management changed. The new managers would forget to put the music on, and I literally cannot get anything done if it's silent, because if I can hear chit chat of people or even just the staff, you know, making the coffee, any little noises I can hear that are inconsistent, I get so annoyed by that. This next symptom is really interesting to me because I am always early to things, and not just 5 minutes early. I will literally be 15 minutes early because I can't be late. So we just get there 15 minutes early all the time. It's ridiculous. Like, yoga is a 5-minute drive from me and it's so close. There's not really any risk of there being bad traffic or it taking any longer. And when I first started, I would literally leave half an hour before the class and I would get there 25 minutes early. Turns out this is related to ADHD and time blindness. I'm just really bad at understanding how long something is going to take or how much time I actually have. Now, a lot of people with ADHD are often late because of this, but I'm really early, and it impacted my studies as well, and even how I work now. I would get so stressed about exams and thinking I have so much to do. I would always be ready like a month before the exam came around. It's the same with my work. I will get stressed and anxious at 8 a.m. in the morning if I haven't pretty much done all my work for the day, because I will be like, oh my God, we don't have any time. And it's literally 8 a.m. in the morning. I do usually start some work at 6 a.m. I find I'm very productive in that 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. kind of window. But if things aren't done by 8 a.m, if I go for a coffee with a friend instead, which is kind of normal to do on the Gold Coast, everyone's up at like 5 a.m. here. If I do that and I get home at 8 a.m. and I haven't done any work, it's not good. But I literally have the whole day to get my work done still. Another symptom is I'm really bad at telling a story in a straight line. I find it really hard to get to the point because I have to include this bit and I have to include that, and I just get distracted by my own thoughts. I constantly have like, some people describe it as in you have a bunch of trampolines in your head and there's just like thoughts bouncing around from trampoline to trampoline, and it's just chaos in my mind all the time. So much internal chatter. I used to have a lot of trouble getting to sleep because I would be talking to myself in my head and it would just be like all these thoughts going off at once, and this conversation jumping to this conversation. I don't have so much trouble falling asleep anymore because of my kind of morning routine, and my night routine has helped with that. I kind of learned to do that before I found out I had ADHD. So a lot of my coping mechanisms have just happened incidentally without even being aware of the ADHD aspect, which I guess is kind of lucky. But there is this thing called masking, which I'm still trying to figure out in my life, in terms, especially the autism side of things. Like, what am I masking? What is not me? Masking itself is exhausting, but then trying to figure it all out is also. Just having a mind that never turns off is exhausting. And I try meditation and all of that. I do meditation, but it's really hard. Whilst I have learnt to cope with a lot of this, something that I am still working out, and I'm really happy that I have a reason for this now, because it is the aspect that I find most challenging, and that is the emotional dysregulation or inability to regulate my emotions. I have so many issues with my moods. I will literally be high on life, so excited for everything. 1 second, the next minute, the smallest thing happens and I am literally on the floor crying. And I was in a relationship in my 20s that was for 5 years. That was a massive issue for us, and I had no idea why. I thought I was crazy. He thought I was crazy. I thought I was just depressed, or it was hormones, or it was because of him. It was so hard. And as much as I've got a lot better, I'm still struggling, honestly, with my moods, with my emotions. I am super sensitive to rejection, and apparently that's common with neurodivergent brains. You just feel things so much more intensely. As much as it's nice to get excited and feel happiness to another level, my lows are really low. It's so funny, I'm looking at this list I made and I can't even follow this list that I made for myself so that this video flows better. Anyway, that is another big issue. I find it really hard to follow instructions. I kind of just can't. So even driving and stuff, I hate following maps. So I never have my GPS turned on. I kind of just work it out for myself. I find that a lot more exciting and fun. I used to have incredibly low self-esteem. I've always had issues fitting in with people and feeling like I'm understood. It's funny, actually, I had a astrology reading done recently and he was so accurate. It was amazing because he knew nothing about me other than my birth chart. And one of the things he said about, in terms of love, he's like, you have the biggest heart, but people just don't understand you. And I'm like, that is spot on. At school, I never really fitted into any groups. I wasn't cool enough to be in the popular crowd, but then I was too cool to be in the unpopular crowd. So I kind of just floated and never really felt like I belong anywhere. I find it really hard to fit into groups, to make new friends, and even going to social events. I have a lot of anxiety over that. And I think that's related to the autism side of things. It's really funny looking at both aspects, because what I mean by the fact that sometimes they conflict each other is that the ADHD side of me loves new, loves spontaneous, wants to be doing different cool things. But then the autistic side of me loves routine, loves repetition. I love eating the same things every single day. The ADHD side of me wants to go out for dinner because that's new and exciting and sounds really cool. But then it will get to dinner time and the autistic side of me will be like, no, let's just stick to the same thing and eat your dinner at home and be safe here. This is just how my brain works. We don't do things in straight lines. So going back to my inability to follow instructions, I think that's why I also don't like cooking, because I can't follow recipes. Anyway, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you would like to see more, please subscribe. And if that is the case, I will see you in the next video.